Millennials, yeah, we back at it again. Versus the world, you know that we gon' win. Right by my side, got my family and kin. Go, K-Dot. MW, man, this podcast is tough. K-Dot like Giannis, he keep it above. Millennials up and we ain't getting stuck. No, they ain't ready, you think we gon' stop? Maryland and DC, we got it on lock. Tune in, we live, and you know we the spot. Panels and parties, you know how we rock. Millennials versus the world. Millennials versus the world. Millennials versus the world.
Millennials versus the world.
What up, good people? Welcome back to another episode of the Millennials versus the World podcast. So at this point, you've checked out some of the dope people on the Wellness Project. You've been rocking for a long time. Y'all already know this is the only spot you get authenticity and entertainment at the same time. So who I have now, she blessed me with being a part of the project. Such a dope soul, such a dope individual. Energy is on 10,000. Transparency is on 10,000. Literally the definition of authenticity. Just thankful to have her on, doing some really big things in her space. She's being a super, super dope advocate for, mental health, awareness, all the above, man. So Dr. Vidid, appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for being on the pod.
Oh man, thank you so much for just thinking of me. I appreciate just being in your energy. So I'm here. For
sure. So before we get too deep in the story, just how has, even though I know we kind of wrapped off camera, how has it been since your last couple of months this year? How's that been in general? How have you been?
I've been blessed, booked, and busy, and unbothered. So I'm working on a lot of projects with some brand partners. I'm working on a lot of keynotes. I have a couple of conferences I'm preparing for, and just being a mom has been quite fun the last couple of weeks. Traveling, moving things around, but Mental Health Awareness Month is May, so this is one of my busiest months. So I love the busyness because it means that people are getting a slice of awareness every time I step out. So that's what's been going on with me. How you doing?
Same. I've been blessed to meet all the people on this project. Just like you said, parenting. My son is finally like kind of in a groove on a schedule. We can have fun together. We go on our walk. So kind of like you said, parenting has been really good. Blessed with my podcast, with the media things I'm doing, my brand, everything has been really good. My, being an educator, get that first year after this pandemic when these babies been out has been like super, super different, I'm gonna say. So getting to the end of that, kids, kind of realigning before they go to high school, it's been good. Everything's been good. It's been a physical energy struggle, readjusting after the pandemic, commuting, stuff like that. So, but everything has been good. Everything's been good. I appreciate you asking. So before we get into, the great things you were doing now, let's kind of go back to how you came up before you became Dr. Vidid. Just kind of take us back to your upbringing, some of the things that, were big parts of your life that just kind of take us back to that place.
Well, for sure. So people know me as Dr. Vidid, but my name is Ashley Elliott. My mother would say, I Dr. Ashley Elliott. So I gotta let my mom know. So I'm DC born and raised. I'm currently still living in the city, Northeast DC. All my life, I've just been in love with my city, but also been aware of the struggles that take place in my city, whether it's poverty, homelessness, mental health, substance abuse, violence, all of those things. I've always been tapped in because I've seen them up front. I started having my first run-ins with the police at about 4.5 years old. I started, paying bills for adults at 7. Oh, wow. So I've always been surrounded by adults who are trying to figure the world out, and that has compelled me to want to help people. I started going to therapy when I was 4 because of my own trauma. So I am the survivor of physical, sexual, mental, verbal abuse. And it definitely took a toll on me in my childhood, but also really lit a fire under me to find other people who may have these connections to some of these traumas and talk with them so they can learn how to heal. So that's literally been my journey. 4 to 7, deciding I wanted to be a psychologist. At 11, deciding I wanted to be clinical psychology, and just running. I eat, breathe, sleep helping, healing. And that's just me. Other than that, I'm just a little 5'2" little brown girl with bright hair, lots of tattoos, and that likes to chill. I love my go-go music. I love my trap music. I love some country now.
Okay.
All those things, very eclectic taste.
Okay.
But everything, I'm a true city girl, walking around talking. There's no place in this city that I don't feel comfortable, that I can't strike up a conversation, whether it be the UPS driver or the trap boys, like the pastor or the janitor, like the CEO or the person that's cleaning the windows. That's just how my soul connects with people. And that's me, just, being a clinician, being a mom, being a motivational speaker and author, and also being a person who's very aware of their own mental health needs. That's just Dr. Vidid in a bubble,
That's dope. I want to ask something real quick, because I know we spoke about this before, but I remember you saying your first experiences going to therapy when you were young. What was it like going when it wasn't cool yet? Like, what was it like? We still think therapy ain't the coolest thing now. We breaking that stigma now, but like during those times, what was it like, being a part of therapy? Did it help you? And I know it kind of contributed to you deciding to be a therapist yourself. So can you kind of expand on that?
Oh, absolutely. And the funny thing about it is, even though to other family members or to other people in the community, therapy wasn't a thing. It was like, why are you airing out your business? My mother never approached it that way. And a lot of people have to understand, my mother had me when she was 18, 19 years old. So 4 years from now, she's like, in her early 20s, deciding that because of the things that her daughter had witnessed and the things that she had gone through, that it was best for her to talk to somebody. Now, my first therapy experiences were absolute basura, trash. I had it's funny how you change trash into treasure, So my first psychologist was an older Black man who just wanted me to lie and just like gave me candy and tried to like create stories about my trauma that weren't real. And as I'm an adult, I know what he was doing. He was trying to find something that suited his treatment style, his intervention style, and push me into a certain way, because into a certain narrative that would be easier for him to pick apart. But that's not what he was doing. He was making me lie, making me uncomfortable with his questioning. So I told my mom, and she was like, absolutely not. The next therapist, bless my mom's heart, because she just knew. Because at first, I think because she was young and I was young, she was thinking, well, maybe she playing the game and she not really, she getting over. So she got me this older white woman, and I repeated as many times, that lady did not like kids, and she definitely didn't like Black kids.
Yeah.
And she was just really mean and made me feel really small and minimized. And you got to remember, let me reiterate, I'm like 4.5.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So for an adult to make a child that young feel so, I would say I did feel disrespect, but I didn't know how to verbalize and vocalize at the time. But I know she was just making me feel bad about the things that I was going through. And she was telling me that I was lying about the real trauma that I had gone through, because no one could believe that I had lived the life that I had lived that for.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was wild. And I remember leaving the therapy office, going to the lobby. It's so fresh. It's so funny because that was 30 years ago. Crying and telling my mom, like, nobody should feel like this. You told me that people are supposed to make you feel safe, and she didn't make you feel safe. And, my mom did her best to comfort me and console me. But the thing I said before I left that office, if there are other kids that feel like me, I want to make sure that other kids don't have to feel like this. When I get big, I'm going to make sure other kids don't feel like this. And that's how I've been running with it ever since.
That's dope. So with that, because a lot of us don't know what we don't want to do, even when we get into our early, we graduate high school, trying to figure it out. What did that one feeling literally keep you eye on the prize the entire time until you was able to get into the space you are now? Because a lot of us feel that we want to be doctors, we want to be this, and we switch up as, experiences happen. So what never made you move away from that goal, that mission to help from such a young age to now?
That's funny you say that. Okay, so when people would first ask me what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a police officer, right? And my mom, because mind you, I have to remind my mom had me young, so it prefaces this, and the way my mom and me converse with each other is a little different than your normal the parent-child situation, well, your average, right?
Yeah, I got you.
So I said, I want to be a police officer. She said, for what? In my mind, helping protect people, because I'm seeing in early 90s DC. She said, you know, police officers get shot back at. I said, oh, can't do that. And I decided, you know, again with the therapy thing. And then I said, I'm really in the creative arts. That's another love of mine. I'm a writer, and I do visual art. And my mom is an artist too. She's a creative writer as well outside of her profession. She's in the beauty industry. And I said, I'm gonna be an artist, mommy. And she said, again, preface this with my mom being young, but being real. Artists don't get recognized until they die.
Oof. That's a fact though. That's a harsh truth right there.
Yeah. And I was like, what? And she said, well, if you want to impact people, do it while you're living. And I stayed. So that made me stay on the track of psychology. But also, again, I'm growing up in the 90s and the 2000s. So I've seen the crack epidemic. I've seen the riots. I've seen homelessness. I've seen race riots. I've seen part of my city been burned down. I've seen all of these things. One of my first early interactions with police was one of the former police chiefs of DC was a discrimination dispute. She just walked up on two gay Black men and let her officers beat them and throw bleach on them. And that made me be terrified of gay men for 3 years. Not because I thought they would do something to me, but I thought, well, if anytime a gay man is around, that means something bad gonna happen to them. So I had that. The first time I had a gun pulled on me wasn't from a trap dude. It was from I was 7, and it was a police officer telling me to put my hands up while I was trying to put my little brother in a car seat. So all of these things
for sure
have pushed me, because I'm like, if this is going on with me, and I'm talking about things at school and elementary, middle school, high school, and a lot of my friends having a similar experience, but no adults are checking in with us. Or the young adults are just like told to buck it up. And that really is what pushed me, like the acknowledgement that we are being ignored, especially as Black folk. We are being ignored. We're just constantly having to be dealing with trauma, and no one is checking in with us. And I wanted to be the person that not just checked in, but helped you process and help you on your road to healing.
For sure. Dope. I wanted to ask this. Sorry, this popped up in my head. Because it seems like your experience is like mentally matured you further than your peers around you. Did you feel different coming up? Did you feel different because you were so, you were advanced? You know what I'm saying? Mentally, you've been through things that prior your peers didn't experience. Did you feel different when you were coming up?
All the time. I used to describe it as being weird. My teachers even noticed it too. Like this air of like forced maturity is what I would say it was. You know, I didn't want to play I would play occasionally during recess, but I would like to sit and journal. I was the librarian was my friend. I would go and sit. How else could you describe it as weird? I was so in tune with my emotions that I'm sitting with the 50-something-year-old librarian talking about Edgar Allan Poe eating a cheese sandwich.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I was, that was me. You know, I was the kid that if kids were fighting or somebody was bullying, I was the kid that's not knucking if you buck. And I was like, what you fighting them for? Like, what's going on? Like that, I was that kid. And also I was a kid that just, because there were so many things going on with me, and I'm to my own harm, I've always been a very smart kid. So a lot of people would ignore a lot of the emotional outbursts I would have, or if I was like, now I know it's dissociating. Back then, teachers would say I was daydreaming. And so it was a lot different for me. And my mom saw it, and teachers would say things, not in a negative manner, but like, she's different than the rest of these kids, or she is something about her. And I used to internalize it as something bad though. Like, oh, I'm smart, but also kids connect with me, but I connected with adults more. And it made me feel like an outsider, but it also exposed me to how adults think about kids and how adults process their problems. So it was a blessing and a curse being advanced, but you know, I wouldn't change who I am for anything, because it's set up the structure for how I give back to other people.
Yeah, And it's crazy you say that, because I always think about now seeing kids now, and the kids that you could tell they feel different or viewed as different. You don't see a lot of kids make it out of that. Not saying they don't become something. I'm saying they minimize their differentness instead of utilizing it to be something else. You know what I mean? Like a lot. And I'm just saying different, because I don't like to put a good or bad on different, but like we now in the culture, you know how social media makes us all feel like there's this one prize that we all trying to get to, this, that, and the third. So from that age to now, what makes you continue to step into your uniqueness instead of dimming that light? Because a lot of people will dim the light to fit in. What makes you not do that from then all the way up until now?
If I'm not authentically myself, how can other people feel safe around me? If I don't walk my walk and walk in my truth, how can other people, especially clinically, or my tribe, or my friends and my family, how can they feel comfortable in their truth? If I'm in essence a role model, so I always felt like I never connect with fake energy. And not in an elitist, pretentious way, but I could always feel like this isn't who you are. I want to know who you are. And even if it's different than other people, I still respect it. I still want to know what makes you tick, what makes you cry, what makes you smile, what your true thoughts are, like what your style is like. My mom, we grew up with a very big deal. Even though my mom was young, she was wise. So she would always, even if something was different, or she felt like I might get made fun of, or the way I expressed myself was different than other kids, she never toned it down. She always said, well, does it feel good to you? If it's about you? And another thing that she always told me is, fake is hard.
It is, bro.
She said, fake is hard, because that means you're lying. And she says this constantly to this day. If you lie, you have to create other lies to sustain that lie, and that takes so much energy. And could you do that for the rest of your life? Absolutely not.
No way. So I promise you we're gonna get to the but you just keep saying stuff that make me think of other questions. Two parts. I'm gonna ask the first one, then I'll ask the second one.
Okay.
Was it hard maintaining friends? Always been kind of more mature, always been quote unquote, I'm gonna say unique. I don't like using different. Being unique. Was it hard maintaining friends throughout? Or was it kind of like the ones you locked in with, they knew who you were, they knew Ashley, so it was like when everything else came, they already knew who Ashley was? How was that?
I would say hard, yes and no. So for a good part of my childhood, from elementary school until middle school, I was bullied. Because first of all, like I say, I'm 5'2" now. I had to grow into that, baby. I didn't become 5'2" until I was 19 years old.
Got you.
So I'm this tiny girl. When did I get my glasses? I didn't get my glasses to high school, but I'm this tiny girl that wears whatever she wants to wear. Then my mom had this whole era in elementary school. We weren't required to wear uniforms, but she would make me wear uniforms, which I was like, what? Nobody else is wearing this. Yeah. She's like, so cute. I was like, you're making them look at me more. But so I had friends that were just attracted to my energy, and I was attracted to theirs because we were bonding through a lot of the similar stories. Like my best friend in the whole wide world, we've been friends since we always joke 3.5 since I first laid eyes on her. That's been my girl. That's and there are other people who have like come and gone, and I realized that it was okay. After I stopped getting bullied, I had one incident. My bully just decided it was best to just be cool with me, because like people would like push me off swings. They would just hit me. They would just say mean things to me. And mind you, I'm chilling.
Yeah, for sure. That's crazy.
Right. So I had to, in middle school, God rest his soul, the thing that made me change in picking my friends and checking my energy and, disconnecting and being like, all right, everybody doesn't. Now I say as an adult, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm somebody's, a couple people's nice shot of tequila.
Actual, loved it.
Right. But as a child, I didn't understand it. But when I got my last bullying incident, my cousin Nathan, he's like a couple months older than me. I remember him walking down the hallway and saying, if you don't stand up for yourself now, you'll be sitting down for the rest of your life. And I'm like, who says this at 12 years old to another 12-year-old? But he was right.
Yeah.
And he was like, I can't, because he is my bodyguard, baby. He said, you said his cousin name, he'll roll up on you. His name rolled in the streets. So he liked to tussle.
Oh, yeah. Got to have one. Got to
have it for you. And after that moment, I heard him say that, and my bully like threw something. I think this boy threw a chair at me. And the teacher just let it rock. And I was like, oh, okay. If I continue to sit down, I picked up a desk and threw it and like and went off and went on this tangent. My words have always been more lethal than anything. But it was a tangent of reading this little boy for filth, not cussing, not doing that, but letting you know, like, baby, if you do this, I'm gonna put my foot on the gas every day you say something to me. And everything changed from that moment. People were like, one, she stood up for herself, but two, did you hear the words she was saying to you? Like,
mess with me again, it could come for you too.
I'm gonna light you up. So by the time I got to high school, I learned how to perfect the comeback. So you're not gonna join on me because I'm gonna light you up, but you gotta have that stick in the city. We joining each other for fun, playing the dozens, whatever you want to call it. But during that time, I realized that my mom said something to me too. She said when she was in elementary school, middle school, this girl came to her and said, friends, you need to learn how to pick and choose. So in high school, I really started aligning myself with people who we identified with each other, but we understood and accepted each other. And it wasn't trying to like mold us into different things, or wasn't trying to be cliquey or fatty. We just were cool with knowing each other's truth. And that's how it's been ever since, like I have acquaintances, people I'm cool with, friends, and I have a tribe. And I had to learn how to do that as I was older. And that's really what maintains me to this day.
And that's so real. I'm like you, I've had that, but I didn't know what it was until I was older. Like, it's okay. Not everybody's not your friend. There's certain people for certain things. Everything that you do with this one person doesn't mean you go do it with this person. So I'm completely with that. And then, so one other question that I had. So I heard you talk about being authentic, people's energy, being able to read through their energy. So through your gift and experiences, and then through your studies, how often do you run into people who you don't see being their authentic self? Like, it's always like always something here versus themselves. So through the gift that I believe you have, and through your studies, and as in studies, meaning like learning what it is, how many people do you run into that's not their authentic self?
On a regular basis, it's everyday thing. I can't even count. And it's something that I talk to with my clients all the time. And it's not that people are not being their authentic selves because they desire to be fake. It's that they haven't had the safety. Someone has said, why would you do that? Why you wanna dress this way? Or you think you can be in that club? Or you're not smart enough, you're not tough enough, you're not fast enough, or have just convinced them that a familial path, like a family path, is what's for them. I mean, lawyers that I know that don't want to be lawyers, but it's because their family told them they had to do. How many doctors that I know that don't want to be doctors? I know so many people, or people that were I'm in law school, I'm in undergrad, I'm in this, I'm in that. What are you pursuing this? Why? Because that's what my family wants me to do. And that's not being your authentic self. Or I see wives and husbands that desire to expand a business, or be who they are authentically in their sexual preferences and their sexuality and their intimacy. And they feel like they can't be their authentic self because they'll be judged. It'll be frowned upon. It's taboo. Like, so every day I meet people, I meet children whose families are like, I don't have the resources for you to get the things that would make you feel authentically safe. So I have to be this person until I can get out of this environment. So it's an everyday thing. And sometimes I have a moment where I'm not slipping out of my authentic self. I forget who I am because I am doing so much for other people.
Oh, wow. Wow. Hey, look, you know how we do now. You getting me to rolling now. I promise you. Because I just want everybody to hear, like how she just said, like, basically, like, I'm saying this, like, I give people grace because they're not always in the space to be who they believe to be. So can you kind of tap into, like, What realigns you when you feel like you forget who you are and you feel like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know you know who you are, you know what you do, but like what realigns you? What happens to let you know like, I'm not walking in my energy right now? What realigns you?
The energy piece. As I'm a real big empath. So I pick up on other people's energy, but there's something I kind of call it like an internal meter. When I'm low or depleted and I don't feel it like build back up, I know I'm not authentically making moves that I need to make, and it's more minimizing myself or stopping myself from doing things I need to do and fill me up spiritually, authentically, or organically, in order to help people up and fill them up. And it's a feeling of emptiness. And one of the things, I'm a very spiritual person, not religious person. So if I don't practice like some of the things as far as like grounding myself, praying, breathing, doing my cleansing rituals, like today I came from church, that's how I like release things, so I have the space for me, because I call it okay, so you a podcaster, you do this, like, you know how you edit things and you hear your voice and you're like, levels off, and you like adjust it. I have that running all day. Dope. So like if I can't hear myself clearly, or if I can't hear, we have some of us have a visual narrative and some of us have an auditory narrative, where like the voice that kind of like helps you talk to, and some people just see images. I'm the girl that has the voice. Yeah. I can't hear that voice. I know I'm not moving authentically. That means there are too many voices, there are too many people, there are too many things that I'm putting on my plate that are not allowing me to move in the way. I'm suffocating, I'm stuffy. And when I can't hear my voice, I gotta move immediately, because if I can't hear my voice, that means I'm not saying what needs to be said. That means I am not doing the things that I've spoken, because if I can't hear myself, I don't believe. So I have to do things. Sometimes it's disconnecting. And it's funny that you asked me that, because I posted a TikTok about it. I'm about to post it to Instagram, and when I'm done here with you, one of the things my grandmother did was, when you graduate, they give you the cards with your name on it to put into your invitation. So she saved it. And she said, I just want you to remember who you are. So sometimes when I can't hear my voice and I need to realign, I literally say my first, middle, and last name aloud to remember who I am. And I repeat it emphatically with umph. So I can trigger myself into being like, girl, what you doing? Remember who you are, and don't you ever forget it. And that's what I do to realign.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. So what makes, have you always been in this space to unapologetically do what you need to do for yourself in order to pay to help others? Or did you have to learn that you have to have some selfishness in order to come back to your selflessness?
I'm a reformed people pleaser.
Oh, wow. As am I.
I'm a reformed people pleaser. Yeah. So I would say in my 20s, I really stepped into myself unapologetically. This is like grad school time, grad school time. When I felt like an adult, and I felt like I was in charge of my life, and it made me move unapologetically, because guess what? This is the first time in my life that I get to make the decisions, call the shots, and do the things that make me feel good without having to answer to anybody else or ask for permission. Permission slip days stopped for me years ago, so I would, and then letting go of the people pleaserness, because I was realizing that if you want to be unapologetically yourself, right? If you want to grab things for yourself, sometimes you're going to have to tell people now. And it hurt at first, not because it hurt me to say no. It hurt hearing the responses to my no. But then I realized, in order for me, if I lived unapologetically and walk my walk and talk my talk, maybe the people who are so close that are keep pulling on me will learn that they can pull themselves. So it was a switch. Like one day I kind of woke up and was tired of the thing about people pleasing, and nobody tells you. You can go and bring people the stars, the moon, the sand, everything from all the beautiful ends of the universe, and they will forget it as soon as they need something else.
That's so real.
And if you can't provide it for them, baby, they'll act like it's the end of the world. And I started realizing that was a pattern. Like, I don't like living in transactional patterns. So I was like, well, dang, what am I giving here? If that's not my truth, I'm a giver, but I don't give to be used. And that's when I realized I was so drained by my people pleasing. I was like, oh, okay, just say no. And it's like, well, if they say no, they're gonna think, then my no's gonna get them their yes, because they're gonna either keep moving or they're not. And your yes gonna either look like, all right, she could no from Ashley, but yes from others, or no, you stop, yes is you.
Facts. Good gracious. That's that, yo. I'll go off on a tangent, but that piece you said, like to give but not to be used, that is so hard to learn, because we think just because we give and we can't be used because we want to give, and that's not true. But I'm a kind of switch gears a little bit. I heard you talk about undergrad, you coming into yourself, the permission slip. Let's tap into the as Monduke said, doctor. But how was that journey becoming a Black doctor and the grind? How was that, and in the mental health space? Because there's not a lot of Black ladies in the mental health space. So how was it that grind, that hustle to become a doctor and get that accomplishment?
I cried so many tears and I drank so much wine. It was so rough. Like, so, and it was rough for me in ways. Okay, so I've been Black all my life, right?
For sure.
So I know, of course, like racism and classism and ableism. I know about all these things and I've experienced them, but it's another thing to experience it in an academic level. When you're in classrooms with people who have the same the same motive. Like, I'm here to get this so I can do, but you realize they don't have the same motivation. And then you realize that you're a threat to people just by breathing. Like, undergrad was a cakewalk for me.
Okay.
Undergrad I was at VCU. I met all these friends. I had some moments. That was the first time I realized that my anxiety was really bad. But I was around people who, it was really diverse. So, we could connect. And I met so many friends that are in my tribe now. When I went to grad school, I swear them white folks in there was like, what is she doing here? Like, it was wild. And I'm like, I don't know. I the first month of grad school, I heard, you speak so well, you're so articulate. Did your mom put you in private school? Do you have the special scholarship? Did you plead for affirmative? I'm not exaggerating.
Oh, I believe you.
Affirmative action.
Yes.
People would. I have a very eclectic, very me style. I would come from work and come to class. People would be like, "Why are you wearing a fedora? Why are you doing this? Oh, she's just here for a fashion show." Da 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 da. And I would get up to present, and them babies would be shook.
Got to. You gotta let them know what it is.
Yeah, it was always really hard. Like, there was one time I was presenting, and I stepped off, and I started crying. And one of Dr. D. Preston Dillon, bless her heart, she's an older white woman. She called it like it is. She walked up to me and said, that was one of the best presentations I have ever had since I taught this class. I want to tell you something right now. Don't you ever shake who you are. They don't understand it. They don't get it. But there's clients out here. And then she was speaking this into me, and I hadn't even graduated. She was like, there's clients out here that are waiting for you. And don't you ever change. And then it happened again. Like, I had 2 or 3 other women professors, clinicians come up to me and see this stuff and be like, don't you ever. You got something that they don't have, and it comes naturally, and that bothers them. Let them be bothered.
For sure.
And that's it.
And that's why it's beautiful to see a Black doctor. And I must go even further, say a woman that's a doctor, because I don't think there's a lot of babies, Black and brown, that don't think that's possible,
Right.
And they don't think they can do it their way. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when the reason why I could feel what you were saying so much. Because when I was in grad school, it's the same thing. I'm like, it's like as soon as you walk through the door, it's like, when my wife was in grad school, when we went to her orientation, I won't say the university, but when we walked in, it was like, wrong. Did y'all take the wrong turn? Or like, I'm like, good, great. The class ain't even started yet.
You be like, what in the Jim Crow? Like, not, but I belong here.
For sure.
And I don't have to prove myself to anybody. I proved myself enough on paper to get here.
Factual.
And the funny thing about, there were so little of us as far as like my Black cohort members, and a lot of them died off because one, you can't, it gets to you. You're like, I'm trying my hardest. And then of course, some people find doing coursework or certain things don't work with their lifestyle, but it would be some people who's like, damn, is it going to be like this when we graduate, when we get practices or we're going to work in the professional realm? I don't know if I want to deal with this. And I had my moment where I cried and I talked to my mom and I was like, I don't know if I can. She said, it would be sad if you let my mother know how to say stuff. If you haven't noticed, it would be so sad if you let them folk run you out of there knowing all you got to give.
Yo, shout out to mom, bro. She be dropping some deals, bro. Shout out to mom. I feel that though. That's real. Hey, that's real.
I'm not gonna let you run me out because at the same time, I knew that there aren't in the grand scheme of things. I try to tell people 1% of the population identifies as a doctor, right? And then in our field, of that 1%, 4% of us are Black.
Whew.
So that's a moment where I had to sit and like, dang, remember that 4-year-old girl who longed for someone who saw her? You got to do this for the 4-year-old girls, the 20-year-old girls, the 25 to 30, 50-year-old men. This long for somebody who understands their experience. And I'd be damned if I let somebody who don't know my experience, who can't appreciate my experience, and is living and breathing and eating, studying something that comes to me naturally. You got to be crazy.
Facts.
So that's what really pushed me through.
Facts. And so when people know how rare she is with the numbers, if you're not a numbers person, cut the corner of a cake, then cut the corner of that corner, and that's how many Black people you see as a doctor in her profession, is what she's saying. Cut the corner of a cake, then cut the corner of that corner, and that's what we're looking at. I do so with knowing at a young age what you wanted to do, you knocked it out, it came natural. When you heard them say, when you graduated and heard them say, Dr. Ashley Elliott, did you have a sense of accomplishment or a sense of this is where I had to get for my work to start?
Oh man. So it was kind of mixed emotions for me. So I was not allowed to graduate on time with my cohort. So at the end, right before I found out I was pregnant in my last academic year of my doctoral program. And so a lot of people don't know that we have a thing called match day when you're in clinical programs or residential programs, medical, mental health field. And what this is a day where you're competing with other students all over the country to get the internship that you want. And at this time, preparing for a match day, I am heavily pregnant. Wow. And my advisor left. He went to another school, so they put him with another advisor, a white woman. And I remember her looking me in my face and said, you're not going to get an internship because who's going to, you have a brand new baby by the time it starts. And sometimes we have to choose. Do we want to be a good psychologist or do we want to be a good mom? And that pissed me off because I knew there were so many other women in this program and men in this program that were having babies because we're older. We're in our 20s, late 20s, 30s, 40s, some of us. And I never heard them talk to any of the men who were expecting children like that. I never, if anything, it was so much support. But when the women, they would like push us to get married. They would push us to like, oh, have your boyfriend or your fiance or your husband take. It was really wild. So I was so stressed out. But I remember going on my interviews pregnant as heck. And I got where I wanted to be. And I remember preparing for my last year and before I'm going on internship. I was like, because you said that you asked this question, is flashbacks just hit. And I remember sitting 8.5 months pregnant, and people were like, "You're no way you're gonna get interviews." Now that girl got every single interview that I wanted.
I don't get it.
I was sitting there. I'm pregnant. People ask, because by law, legally, that's discrimination. You can't ask me about my motherhood, you know. So I'm sitting there and I'm getting asked the most outlandish, illegal questions by some of these site workers. And I'm just like, yo, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of stress. And then I had my baby, literally called them because I was supposed to start my last class and my internship. I just had my baby. The day I had my baby, they said, you got 7 days. If you don't report to your class in 7 days, we will remove you from your program. And when you at year 6, that means you got to start over.
Wow.
And I said, I got 7 days. Bet. Say less. And it hurt me to my heart to leave my child a week after she had been born, to get to class, to go back to internship after a month. I had to elongate my internship. So all these things, I was so stressed out. I missed my baby's first crawl. I missed her first roll. I saw them all through videos that my ex-husband would send because I was always at school. My internship took me 35 to 54 hours a week. It's only supposed to be 40. So I'm doing all of these things. And then I get to my dissertation, and my dissertation chair looks at me and says, right before I have this baby, he says, I'm not going to sign off on your stuff. I said, what? He said, and I love him for this. He said, I want you to take time to be a mom. You're going to have this baby and they stress you out this whole time. You can write. You're a writer. Your graduation is graduation. So I graduated 6 months after the rest of my cohort graduated.
Oh, wow.
But I think it was aligned because I graduated on my dad. My dad has been, he's no longer with us. He's actually was killed on April 17th, 1989. But his birthday, no, thank you. His birthday was October 10th. Our graduations are usually in September or November. For some reason, the cohort graduation was moved when I graduated to October 10th. So
powerful.
It was for me.
Powerful.
And I remember it was some debacles with everything. My whole family didn't show up. I was so hurt, still hurt. And I remember being on the stage and my chair, hooding me. And I looked out and he whispered in my ear, "Congratulations, doctor." And it hit me like, because technically I have been Dr. Ashley since March. Because as soon as you get your dissertation approved, it was wild. Like my whole story is wild. Like they didn't know if they was going to get approved in time. My second reader, my dissertation chair passed it to her. He was like, good to go. Let her do it. She was like, I don't know if I have time. And then she texted me in the middle of the night and was like, I started reading it and I didn't put it down.
Oh, wow.
Here you go. Congratulations, Dr. Ashley. And I was like, oh.
Let them know, Black woman. Get them right.
Yeah. Like it hit me. So like that moment, I went out, drunk so many tequila shots that night.
Oh, yeah.
And then graduation, my daughter was, at that time, she was almost 2. And I had her sitting and I took my hat off and put it on her. And I was like, this is what it's for. And it wasn't the fact that I was just Dr. Ashley. It was the fact that I had done this in the face of so much adversity that it was a flex for me.
For sure.
It's like, oh, well, I'm Dr. Ashley, but you don't know what I did to be her.
Factual. And that's why people don't understand. They get in this whole argument of arrogance. When you know and you're comfortable with what you've been through to achieve what you've achieved, you do not allow people to steal that. People have no idea. And what I always try to tell people is, like, your story is different from my story. Our story is different from the next person. It's all different, but like that doesn't change what it took that person to do in order to get that. That's why I hate that we try to like minimize people's accomplishments, even if we view them as small. Like, you know what I mean? Like we I'm like, no, it's not that. It's an accomplishment that they went through in order to get it's things that they went through in order to get this. So I think that is dope. And I think the fact that like you made them eat their words, like you gonna make me choose. Oh, I'm gonna do both. And even though it's a struggle, I'm gonna show you what it is.
You know, the most fulfilling thing that happened to me, satisfying thing that happened to me in the last couple months. In the last month, I had to teach a continuing education unit course for a specific mental hospital, psychiatric hospital in Maryland, but it went out to everybody who was under the Maryland Department of Health. Mm-hmm. And the moment for me is I'm watching people come into this, it's like hundreds of people come in. One of my old supervisors from when I was pregnant was there. And because I know that name.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, oh, the tables have turned.
I know that's right.
I'm teaching you, you know, and it's a moment. I've had so many moments where I've walked up on people or been in the room with people or been in a social media space with people that told me I couldn't, and I am doing it, or asking me for things, I'm leaving you on red, but asking me for things. And it's so satisfying. That's why I like pour into my children and every little Black and brown boy and girl and other that I can, because there's always going to be people that tell you can't. And it's because they didn't have the audacity to believe that they could. So, you know, you got to run knowing that, like, oh, I'm audacious enough to believe it. Mm-hmm. So the audacity is my motivation. And if I'm motivated, the motor is in my back. And if the motor is running, my feet are too. Yep. So, you know, I'm in a place where I'm so grateful for everybody who ever spoke a word against me, because it makes me feel good every morning when you email me and I gotta tell you to address me as, hey, good morning, Dr. Ashley speaking, how may I help you?
Factual. So let's kind of to piggyback off that before we close out, let's kind of get into the vision of what you see for your work, like where you're at, the vision of what you see for your work, what you want to leave, you know, how you see your work, you know, evolving, you know, you want to help people, but just the vision for your work, the space you're in, and what you like to leave, your imprint you like to leave on the world when you finish with your work one day.
Dr. Vivid's footprints in the sand. And so I've never seen myself as just a therapist, just a clinician. Mm-hmm. I don't see myself boxed in the office. So my mission is to make conversations about mental health and wellness normal, and to break stigma, to shoot up taboo, and doing that by having partnerships with, you know, brands and companies. I do a lot of work with going into companies. So I also do mental health and diversity and inclusion, because a lot of people don't know that they should be together. Yeah. So doing that work and helping companies focus on the mental health and well-being of their employees. So I'm doing that, creating these children books with my children. You know, I use my social media presence for empowerment, encouragement, enlightenment, motivation, inspiration. So it really, I hate to get ahead of myself, but what God shows me is always small compared to what he gives me. So I really don't know. I just know it's bigger.
Facts. Beautiful.
I just know it's bigger. I'm just helping as many people as I can, passing on as many, you know, tools for coping and healing as I can. If that be by doing therapy, through the books that I write, through the appearances that I have, through the collaborations, through things like this. I don't know, but I am my ancestors' wildest dream. So I'm just going to keep running until God sit me down.
Factual. What can the people connect with this dope energy at? Where can they find you?
Oh man, so on my social media, if you want to hit me up on IG streets, it's at Dr. Vivid, DRVIVID. Okay, if you hit me on Twitter, spelled out Dr. Vivid, you can go to my website, drvivid.com. I'm on TikTok, Dr. Vivid. I'm my TikTok streets. You want to listen to the podcast, if my voice is actually something that you want to listen to, my podcast is on all your favorite podcast platforms, Vividly Speaking with Dr. Vivid. And you never know, I always got a wellness group or something. So just stay tuned. I'm in the little streets.
Oh yeah. Appreciate you coming through for sure.
Thank you so much for having me. I love your energy.
Appreciate it. Millennials versus the Worlds, K.Mims, Dr. Ashley Elliott, aka Dr. Vivid. We out.
Millennials, yeah.